Hey everybody, in this video, I'm going to lay out 4 simple steps that you can take to improve your running speed and to run faster. Running faster is a very elusive goal that people have in the running world, and I'm going to lay out 4 simple things to think about when you're thinking about running faster. Hi, my name is Dr. Michael. I'm a physical therapist here in Evanston, Illinois, where I specialize in working with runners at Valiant Physical Therapy. And a lot of times I'll be working with a runner and they're finishing their course of rehab, and then we start working on them on improving their running and their running performance. And a lot of people care a lot. So the first is to build your base, okay? So a lot of times people who are trying to run faster will focus on that part first before they've actually built up any degree of running mileage. So the first tip I have is to focus on building your weekly mileage and don't worry about your speed, okay? Which is a little bit counterintuitive in a video talking about running faster. The first thing to focus on is just to build some consistency and some weekly volume with running. You don't need to worry about doing intervals. You don't need to worry about doing any sort of speed work. Just get out there and build some degree of weekly mileage, because if you can start to accumulate 5 miles a week, then 10 miles a week, then 15 miles a week, not necessarily in those jumps, but if you can start to maintain a consistent 15 miles a week and you're feeling good and you're comfortable when you go out on your runs, nothing hurts, now you'd be ready to move on to the next step, which is to run faster sometimes. Now, this can seem a little bit obvious, but I wrote it in this way to kind of hit a point home, in that a lot of runners who have already built their base, they already have their running routine. They have their weekly mileage. They know when they go out for their runs. They know what pace they run at. They run at their conversational pace. And they want to get faster, but they just keep running at the same speed all the time. This is a very common mistake that I see runners make when they're trying to get faster, is they're not actually running any faster than their normal pace at any point. So this is where things can start to get really complicated, and we start talking about doing interval workouts on the track. We start talking about threshold runs, okay, strides, sprints, different elements and different ways to structure a running workout that will produce a better runner and a faster runner. But it all boils down to, for some amount of time, you need to push the pace. You need to run faster for some amount of time. Now, how to program different elements of these workouts and how to program different things that make you run faster sometimes is a huge topic. That is basically running coaching, which is how do you structure these workouts? When is the right time to do the runs, and how fast should I go and for how long, and how does that tie into everything? So this is an entire topic that people can write books about. So to keep this video simple, I'm not going to dive into the details of how exactly to program these different elements into your workouts, but the basic essence of it is you're going to want to mix it up. You're going to want to run faster sometimes. This doesn't mean run faster all the time, and for every run from here on out is a fast run. It means run faster sometimes. So sprinkling in some speed elements into your runs is good. Doing some sort of speed work based on time is really helpful, not necessarily based on distance at the beginning. Something like 30 seconds of a harder effort than your normal conversational pace is already running faster sometimes, okay? So the third element of how to run faster is going to be run with faster runners. So there are people that I know that have a good running base. They do their intervals on their own. They do their speed workouts on their own, but they're always running by themselves, okay? They're always running by themselves. And running with other people, especially people that are faster than you, can really start to encourage you to push your own boundaries that you wouldn't be doing if you were just running by yourself. So find a running club, go to some group track workouts, pair up with some other people who have similar goals as you, pair up with some people who are faster than you, and start to do your workouts and your runs together with those people so that you are pushing the pace. okay? And then the fourth and final in this little 1, 2, 3, 4 series is going to be define a time/pace-based goal. We can have our base, we can run faster sometimes, we can run faster with other people, but if we don't have a target that we're shooting for, it kind of gets difficult to actually assess if you're making any progress or not, or what is the whole point of running faster? Why are you actually trying to run faster? How do you know if you're making progress? How do you know if something needs to change? So having some degree of a pace-based goal can be really helpful for figuring out how to structure the entirety of your training and how you can know that you're making progress towards your goal. I have one caveat on this, and that is if you're gonna set a time and pace-based goal, it usually will be tied into some degree of a race or some sort of a race distance. So 5K, 10K, half marathon, even a marathon. Sometimes people can have 1 mile goals, things of that nature, maybe some odd distances in there. But I tend to discourage people from setting time or pace-based goals if they are striving to complete a distance for the first time. So for example, if you've never run a marathon before, don't even worry about setting a time goal for that race, okay? Just focus on completing the distance if you've never completed that distance before. And then once you establish your baseline as far as this is how fast I can run this distance, then we can start talking about, okay, how can I get faster from there? A lot of times people, if they're trying to get faster, will look at a half marathon or a marathon and think, okay, well, can I do it in less than 2 hours for the half marathon? And then they revolve their training around that when in reality, maybe their first time they run it, they're at 2:30 or something drastically different than 2 hours. So then they structure their training around a goal that isn't actually realistic for them. And it's simply because they don't have any sort of a baseline. So if you're going to define a time or pace-based goal, make sure you've completed that distance before and you have a rough idea of what time you can realistically improve to, and then structure your training around that. Okay, so these are the 4 different elements that I think are important in anyone's training program to actually run faster. You want to make sure you have a base. You don't want to add speed work unless you have a base built first. You're going to want to mix up the pace. You're going to want to mix up your training so that you are actually running at different speeds at different times so that you can push your pace and run faster sometimes. It is very helpful to run with other faster runners so that they can help you push your own boundaries and help you reach towards speeds and efforts that you probably wouldn't push yourself to if you were just running by yourself. And then one of the things that really ties all of these together is defining a time and pace-based goal so that you can know what numbers you're trying to hit when you're running faster sometimes, or if you're running with people, say, hey, I know that I need to train more at this pace because that's the pace goal that I have for this race. So it can help you really define the numbers that you need to be hitting in your training. If you found this video helpful and you know another runner that might think that this is helpful, send this over to them. Thanks for watching.